It's the final day of the 8-day Amgen Tour of California, and it's all set now to leave Beverly Hills and head to LA Live and the finishing line in Los Angeles. The Dutchman Robert Hessing, who yesterday on Mount Baldy claimed the yellow jersey, is now poised to win this race, and he looks pretty happy on the start line. But can 22 years old Peter Sagan win his 5th stage of the week? We'll know soon. It's next. After 7 days of cycling from Santa Rosa across California, America's greatest bicycle race, the Amgen Tour of California has come to its final day in Los Angeles. They will leave Beverly Hills on a 42.6-mile stage presented by Amgen. They will see the iconic landmarks like Rodeo Drive as they head away from Beverly Hills and make their way down to LA Live at the end of almost 750 miles of bike racing. Hello everybody, welcome to our live coverage here on NBC. I'm Phil Liggett, alongside me is Paul Sherwin. It's a beautiful day here outside of LA Live, and for Los Angeles it's a massive sporting day, and for the riders in the Amgen Tour of California it is a really big day. It all ends here, Paul. Yesterday we saw Robert Hessing, the Dutchman, get the race lead. The question is now, does he win the race today?
Well, I would expect him to win the bike race today, but Phil, it's not really about Robert Hessing today. It's about the battle of the sprinters. Everybody wants to win on the final day when you're in a massive great city, and what a backdrop Los Angeles makes today for the finish of this bike race.
All right, well, the man in the yellow jersey took it on Mount Baldy, not too far away from where we're talking to you from here in LA Live. There he is, a very happy man indeed. His father died in a bicycle race crash last year, but a few weeks ago he had his first child, and there is Anna being held up to show the crowd on top of Mount Baldy. A very happy man indeed. Let's have a look then as how it starts today with these top 5 riders in the Cliff Bar overall standings. Hessing leads by 46 seconds over David Zabriskie, who was the leader. 54 on Tom Danielson from Boulder, Colorado. TJ Van Garderen also from Boulder, and Fabio Duarte of Colombia in 5th. So let's have a look then at the Visit California map, the last profile, Paul.
Well, most people might think this is going to be a flat stage once they move away from Beverly Hills. We're just above sea level at 253 feet. It's a race of about an hour and a half in length, but they go over some of the most memorable routes. Sunset Boulevard, Hollywood Boulevard, before finally finishing on this circuit around downtown LA and finishing outside LA Live. I'll tell you one thing though, Phil, it is not a stroll in the park. It's very lumpy.
Let's have a look then at checking the stats with Rabobank. 7 of the 16 teams are still intact here. 38 of the 45 Americans are heading home today. And the previous finish in LA Live, well, look who the winner was, Tony Martin. So as we look here down to the start line, we're moments away from the start now. The riders being called up to the line.
We're so gallantly streaming.
Well, tremendous. With lungs like that, I really think she should be in the Amgen Tour of California. These boys now facing up to their final day of racing. 8 days of cycling. We are moments away from the start. We'll take our break, but when we come back, we will be following the race from start to finish here in Los Angeles. This is the Amgen Tour of California on NBC Sports Network, brought to you by Amgen. Pioneering science delivers vital medicines. Visit us at amgen.com. And by AEG, giving the world reason to cheer. And by Amgen's Breakaway from Cancer. No one should have to face cancer alone. Go to breakawayfromcancer.com. And by Proform TDF, the official training bike of the Tour de France. Visit proform.com to see more. Well, there we are. We're looking at the start now. They are counting down as we speak. They've got to zero. They're rolling away. 110 survivors of the 128 that set off exactly 8 days ago in Santa Rosa in Sonoma County. For the last time, we'll see first of all the red flag held by the chief referee as they lead the riders on a small neutralized section before he pulls that flag in. Lawrence Tendam, nearest the picture there, talking with his teammate, now in yellow, Robert Kessing, as they ride towards the line. Also the best young rider from Rabobank there, just picking his ear of his little radio piece, is Wilco Kelderman. The field rolling away now as we head down. It's about 14 miles before we go through the finishing line itself outside of LA Live. And it is an absolutely huge day in the city of Los Angeles today, and particularly at the Staples Center and here in LA Live. Because there is hockey immediately after the cycling, massive hockey game, the Stanley Cup playoffs, and then basketball after that. My hats go off to the authorities for being able to put on 3 iconic events in the same venue on the same day.
Well, I'm not sure, Phil, where they can do that anywhere else in the world, because the number of people who are coming into town as of yesterday was phenomenal, and the police have really seemed to have got it organised with parking spaces, special parking spaces for each different event scattered all the way around downtown. This, however, is the iconic backdrop of Beverly Hills. I wonder if we get a chance today to see the Hollywood sign.
I'm sure we will, Paul. After all, we're in the centre of the film industry. Let's have a look at the Sutter home weather here for stage 8. It's been a glorious week of weather, let's face it. 73 degrees we're seeing today, very slight winds. The typical LA haze is around, as you can see here. It wasn't here in 1984 when I was here for the Los Angeles Olympics. It went away. But there's the peloton, steady at the moment. And now the race referee is checking, and he says that's it, everything is in place, we are underway. The start of the final stage. This is America's greatest bicycle race, and as always, the crowds have turned out in their tens of thousands around this route to cheer these riders over a stunning state of the United States.
Well, a magnificent backdrop. Not surprised at all, Phil, to see the first attack of the day, and that, you know, this is going to be the par for the course, I would expect, because these guys know they're on live television around the world. They want to try and get themselves into a breakaway. They want to try and break the stranglehold of the sprinters if they can, and the teams of the sprinters will come forward and chase everything down.
Well, this is Optum, presented by Kelly Benefit Strategy, has opened up the day's racing. Immediately the peloton has split under pressure. Now, to the riders at this level of cycling, this is a very short and flat and fast day. They will attack from the gun simply because they've got to keep the pressure on if they want to win at this stage. They can't have a gentle ride. This looks like it is one of the Optum riders. It might well be Badjadali who's gone clear here. Looks over his shoulder, checks on the field, they're coming back. But what he's doing here, Paul, is tempting the riders to come and join him, get a little group away.
That is Michael Creed of Optum, presented by Kelly Benefits, number 134. He's got a couple of riders joined him, but look how long that line is at the front end of the peloton. That's because the pressure is being put on. Interesting to note that one of the first teams to take up the pacemaking, in fact, was BMC Racing, their man TJ Van Gardner. I think a little dejected yesterday, Phil. He went into the stage thinking he was going to win this bike race overall, and he crumbled a fraction in the final few kilometres.
Little group just trying to get around Michael Creed here. Is now just checking out which numbers have joined him here on the attack to see if it's worth pushing on. Big reaction, and it's come from the team of the race leader, Robert Hessink. He rides for the Dutch Rabobank team, and they've just brought that big field across. It looks to me as though this is Creed coming into a shot. He's gone again here. As we switch to the back, it's Gregory Rast, the former road race champion of Switzerland, number 7 there, who is sat at the tail at the moment.
Looking at some very expensive real estate down there as we move away from Beverly Hills. It won't take us long to get into West Hollywood, and then after that we'll go right the way through Hollywood and Hollywood Boulevard as well.
Well, after yesterday's stage at Mount Bordy, these are the USA Cycling American standings. Second, Dave Zabriskie. Third, Tom Danielson. And fourth, TJ Van Gardner. Levi Leipheimer come up into 6th, and Chris Horner is in 8th place. We'll take a break. Rejoin us. Let's check out the footage then from earlier in the day of James O'Toole from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, who was the Phase 1 winner of the Nissan Ultimate Access Contest.
My name's Jim O'Toole, and I won the Nissan Ultimate Access trip to Tour of California. Compliments of Nissan. My buddy Paul's the second luckiest dude in the world. So we showed up in the morning, got to walk over to the bus, and the first two faces we see are Jens Voigt and Chris Horner coming out to greet us. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, tremendous. And remember, there are still 2 more grand prizes up for grabs. Just go to nbcsports.com/ultimate access for your chance to win Ultimate Access. And a lot of the film stars have taken time out. I think they made their way down to the finish here to watch the arrival today of the Amgen Tour of California. I have to say the weather is absolutely perfect. It is not too hot. And we're just on 41 miles to go at the moment today, with the whole peloton just about together as they're putting on the pressure. And if you work in kilometres, that's 67 kilometres still to race. Tim Rowe on the attack now for Team BMC.
Well, they've got themselves that slight advantage. Mike Creed in second position is the guy who started the move. Not a lot of reaction in the peloton. A lot of the guys, I think of the sprinters, for example, they will try and shelter in the peloton throughout the majority of the first part of this race, only moving to the front down towards the end. And as I said, Phil, it looks like it's a flat stage on the profile map, but in fact it isn't. It is quite undulating and rolling. And the circuit around downtown, once they hit Hill Street, I think is going to be quite a leg bender after 8 days of racing.
Well, we've swung right now onto the famous Sunset Boulevard here as we head towards the center of Los Angeles. We've got the Garmin Barracuda and the United Healthcare teams trying to drag somebody out of that pack to try and get downtown, where there's a huge crowd waiting for them. We have had hundreds and hundreds of cyclists on the course this morning in Los Angeles, where they've been riding for an hour and a half, doing as many of the circuits as they could in that time, provided us with a great atmosphere.
Well, we're getting a great atmosphere at the front end of the peloton there, because as you can see, they're stretched out in a long line. They are certainly not hanging about. There has not been one easy day in this Amgen Tour of California. From the very first stage around Santa Rosa, the hammer has been down on every occasion, and today will be no exception.
Absolutely. If you're a bike rider in the race, this is your view from the back. So just looking to see if we can work out now the United Healthcare rider on the attack here, just starting to stamp on those pedals, but the whole line is joined up here. This is a big moment, especially for the domestic top cycling teams, because it's their chance to show their stuff against some of the world's finest cyclists, and they have done on a daily basis since we left Santa Rosa. Continuing down Sunset Boulevard at the moment, the field's still together. This is about the longest the field has been together in 8 days, because we've had breaks going in the first 1 or 2 miles of racing on the long open highways. We have toured down the Pacific, we've been into the vineyards, we've been up the mountains. This is such a diverse state rather, California. Now we've got Team Exergy also having a go, quickly jumped on. At the front, these boys are desperate to get clear. Optum in second place just at the moment. This looks to me as though it might well be Matt Cook who's trying to break away on the right of our picture, quickly joined by the team from Optum. Optum have had some success on this race. They have won the King of the Mountains title by Nissan with Sebastian Salas. Well, let's just go to the start, because just before the riders got underway, our co-commentator down there, Bob Roll, he met up with Rob Lowe.
Rob, what are some of the things about California that are so special to you and your family?
Oh my gosh, just the diversity of the activities we can do. I mean, look, we're in Beverly Hills. We're going to see a bike race, and I'm going to go spend a lot of money on some shoes. Where else are you going to do that other than California?
The diversity of climates also is a really spectacular backdrop to the event. Could you talk a little bit about, it's almost 3 states in the state.
It is. In this race, the Amgen Tour of California is like a moving postcard. And if you followed the race at all, you really get to see all of the different opportunities that we have in California. And for people to come and visit the state now as everybody's trying to rebuild our economies, the tourism is huge for us. I think nationally it's 1 in 9 jobs. So everybody's looking at revenues. Come and have some fun for your money. That's the way I say, and give us revenues while you're doing it.
And NorCal has the mountains and the
NorCal,
vineyard.
yeah. Well, listen, Mammoth Mountain is my favorite ski mountain in the world. Central California gives us the best wines in the world, and Southern California, in my humble opinion, gives us the best movies and television. But that's just my humble opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
And of course, NBC is the best of all of those. So you know what I'm saying.
Now you're talking, Bob. You got to the right one in the end there. Well done. Don't spend too much money on those shoes. That was the start moments ago. We're now back with the leaders here. They're still working away. At the last, we've got 6 riders prizing open the can. Are they going to stay away? The race is being led by the whole team of Rabobank, and that is the team of the race leader, Robert Kessing. We'll see you shortly.
Head Sweats, the world leader in performance headwear, is the proud sponsor of the Epic Cycle. Check out our new cycling collection featuring Head Sweats' proprietary eventure woven fabrics and unique graphic designs. Use the code California at headsweats.com to receive 30% off your next online purchase on all Head Sweats headwear. Restrictions apply.
Well, we're looking at the peloton here now as they head down towards the downtown LA Live, saying goodbye to Beverly Hills and coursing through Hollywood. We have got 7 riders getting clear of the field at the moment, led by the Australian Rory Sutherland. We've got a few Americans in there as well, including Ben-Jacques Maines from the Bissell Cycling Club. As we see the Chinese theatre down there as well. These are all iconic landmarks here in downtown Los Angeles now. The streets closed for the passage of the race as they head along Hollywood Boulevard here. And all of these riders in the orange jerseys are working for this rider here, the man they gave the yellow one to last night as leader, Robert Hessing. They're all his teammates. We call them the domestiques, the kitchen helps, if you like. They sit at the front, they'll do all the pacemaking, they'll look after him like a queen bee, protect him from the wind, help him if he has a flat tire. Well, all they want is for him to win this race when he gets down to the finish in Los Angeles. Another 2 Australian riders have made that split at the moment as they're trying to get clear of the field. We'll catch up with them as soon as we can. There they are. Just passing through our picture on the right in the blue colours was Nathan Haas, who is on first-year professional for the top American squad, which races a lot in Europe. This is Morgan Schmidt getting to the front for the Exedy team, quickly coming through with Scott Swisanski from Optum in that orange jersey. They're doing what the cyclists will call through and off, or bit and bit. That's an expression they use. They will make the pace for about 50 yards or so, then they'll swing off and allow the next man to come through. For the moment, although there are 7 separate teams representing those 7 riders, they will help each other. There's the full list of names at the moment, Paul. Nathan Haas, Rory Sutherland, Tom Damiso, Jacques Maines, Swiaczynski is there, and the others are Jesper Stuyven and Morgan Schmidt.
When you ride a bike race like this, Phil, you have to have a good team. Yes, there's always going to be an individual winner, but you need a team to help nurture. Oh, there's a problem at the back here for the king of the mountains, and this is Sebastian Salas. Takes the back wheel out very quickly. You might just notice the lever there. He pulled that open before the mechanic could get there. The mechanic lines it up, takes his time, pulls the wheel back in, flicks over the quick release system, and hopefully he should. Well, there's a little bit of a problem here. In fact, this is a very slow change. He's in now. It should normally take between 12 and 15 seconds, but I've got my watch running on this, and we're already at 22.
Now this is a seriously unfortunate change, should we say here. Now he's locked it in and he's got back on, but he's lost time. The only good thing about it is the convoy of cars, which is 1 car per team of riders in the race. There are 16 teams making 16 cars, plus doctors and referees, so he's got a chance. He can work his way through the cars. He's had a teammate wait for him, which has helped. So the 2 of them should get back okay and get them onto the circuit. This is not the day to get left behind, because it's most embarrassing to race around the small circuit in Los Angeles live on television with all of the spectators seeing you on your own.
Because a lot of spectators, they might not know what happened to that guy. He is the leader and will tonight be the winner of the King of the Mountains competition, but he's got to get himself back into the pack.
The skyscrapers of downtown Los Angeles. This is our Visit California aerial view here. The riders are going on right around us. We'll take another break. Rejoin us in just a moment. All right, let's have a look then today at our Nissan Innovation for All.
I just signed a few more now.
Jens, what's the craziest request you've ever had from a fan?
Well, I think I saw once a sign with Jens, I want your baby. Or another one, Jens for president. I don't think I'm really gonna run for president, but it was a nice try though. It was a nice try.
Jens, what's it like to be you?
Well, I guess for me it's easy. I mean, I just behave like I always do, you know. I don't change. There's no pretending. There's no facade, you know. People get what they see, and they see what they get.
Jens, how do I get my legs to shut up?
Well, you know, I started this job when I was not even 10 years old. So it's 31 years now. It took me about 25 years to get where I am. So just 25 years of working hard and suffering. There's unfortunately no shortcut. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, well, that's our Nissan innovation for all. Jens Voigt will be 41 years of age in September. We love him. The famous story about the bee stinging him 2 days ago. He said, it stung me, so I ate it. Well, those 7 riders might be given a little bit of a head for the moment, Paul, as they would try to claim the fact that they're the first going through town on the first lap. There's a special sprint for small bonuses, the first full circuit. We'll tell you more about that a little later on. The kilometre zone, this is a traditional professional race tactic now. The teammates of Robert Gessing making sure he stays safe. There's no challenges to his lead here at the moment, and so he'll just be happy to think he's coming home in that yellow jersey.
Peter Velits, the tall rider in the pale blue jersey, I was very surprised to see him pass away from the top 5 yesterday. Well, we still haven't found an explanation as to why.
Team Radio Shack, there's Jens Voigt just passing right on our camera now, the third of those 3 riders. So as they continue, well, we've had fun and games, and last night we had an exclusive evening on Target Terrace of LA live last night, way up in the sky for hosting partners and friends of the Amgen Tour of California. There was wine pairings, there was also bike giveaways, there was a special host in Phil Keegan as well, Phil Kogan rather there.
Well, in all seriousness,
interviewing Levi Leipheimer.
We got to get off the course in order to start the hockey game. Sun and Rabobank and Radio Shack.
And this was the morning of the chairman's ride as well. After this, there is Bill Wharton, looking resplendent in his racing jersey. And they had their special ride as well. And also you may have caught a quick glimpse there of Patrick Dempsey as they rolled away. And the president and CEO of AEG, Tim Lewicki, also in the bunch there. And the event was sponsored by United Healthcare, ZD Wines and Specialized. Terrific night and a great morning. Back with the action now. These boys have taken charge of the course now. These are the great little Colombian climbers, the men in black. They lit up the highways as soon as we got onto the slopes of Mount Baldy. Pressure's been on them a little bit on the flatter roads of California at the beginning of the week. But yesterday they finished 2nd and 3rd at the top of the mountain behind Gessing. We'll take a break as the race closes in on the iconic city of Los Angeles. The Hollywood Bowl is open and free to the public during the day, when you can stop into the free Hollywood Bowl Museum to learn more about its history, or you can even tour the grounds. The best way to experience the magic of the bowl is with a picnic under the stars. The Beatles were the first rock and roll band to play the Hollywood Bowl on August the 23rd, 1964. And for more information, just go to visitcalifornia.com. And as we look here now of the riders over the top, they are the 7 leaders. They've built a 30-second gap at the moment. It's been up to 45, but it looks as though the hard-working riders here of Rabobank are not interested in letting this group go, because they are keeping this race speed up to round about 28 miles an hour. We're going to get this stage over and done with before we know, as they head towards the start now of the 6 finishing circuits. A lot of work being done there at the moment by Ram Tanking, Paul Martins, Michael Matthews. They are the workers on the Rabobank squad at the front. This is Rory Sutherland at the front of the breakaway. Nice to see he's got into this breakaway. He'll be a disappointed with his week, I think, but it hasn't all been his fault. He's had a lot of bad luck. He came to this race on really, really good form. and that's why he was listed as one of the pre-race favourites back in Santa Rosa a week ago.
Yeah, but Phil, I don't think anybody expected yesterday's stage to be quite as hard as it was, and it was all made very difficult by the fact that 4 riders from Radio Shack Nissan got into a break almost from the gun, toughening up the race, forcing all of the other teams to chase them. But then when it came to the end, it was a question for me of survival of the fittest.
Yeah, it was an incredibly good move by Chris Horner, but it made for an excruciatingly hard day. So they're looking at Rory Sutherland at the moment, and he is a member of the United Healthcare team. So let's learn a little bit more about the United Healthcare squad themselves.
Apart from a lot of the other teams, I think is the riders that we have together and how we work together as a team.
We're all good friends and we all get along with each other off the bike as well.
Feels like I always have my friends around and my family, and we really care for each other, and we just stick together.
You know, where you see some other teams, they just have dinner and they go straight back to the rooms after. We all kind of hang out and enjoy ourselves as well. So
it's a passion for all of us, the teamwork and the feeling we get through doing things on a daily basis. And of course, you know, in line with the company, we want to try and help people lead healthier lives.
I think Rory is our man, especially here for this race.
When we come to the big races, you know, I'm probably seen a little bit more as one of the leaders of the team with Mark and Phil to help get us through the tour and get the results that we need for the rest of the year.
Yes, one of America's iconic teams, this United Healthcare Pro Cycling multi-international squad, but they all come together to race here in America. Sutherland sits 7th overall at the moment, and Jeff Lauder is in 12th, and Jason McCartney, he is in 3rd overall. So we're going to see a lot of these riders. Their job now is quite simple. Keep this pace high, keep their race leader safe and sound, and bring him home. He's made his time out on the course. He got the yellow jersey yesterday. This race has never been won by more than 49 seconds in its 7-year history. And it looks like the trend is going to continue, because Gesink leads Zabriskie by 46 seconds. It's amazing, really, because the terrain is so vicious, you would really expect minutes to be opened up. It's been a well-contested race yet again, this. Looking at the Dodger Stadium there, as we go round and swing our cameras back towards the bike riders at the back of the race. A little bit of the man sitting at the back is Nathan Haas, the Australian, who's in his first year as a professional there with the E on his back.
I think, Phil, he will get the nod from the team not to participate in this breakaway move here this afternoon, because we've seen the battle for the overall standings, but we will see at the end of this race a battle for the sprinters. They're a different kind of rider. They're the guys who can't get up the hills very well, like Mount Baldy, but they can turn on the speed in a flat finish like today's.
Yes, that's absolutely right. They'll try. He's probably gone as what we call the policeman. He'll just watch and keep an eye on everybody and won't help the escape grow. But it's still holding them off as we head to LA. The Amgen Breakaway Mile is an approximately 1-mile march to celebrate cancer survivors. About 150 community members participate to honour and celebrate not only those impacted by cancer, but also the scientific innovations made possible by biotechnology. The Breakaway Mile crosses the finishing line prior to the stage conclusion of the professional race. So as we look down from our helicopter here, this is the final stage of the Amgen Tour of California, presented by Amgen. It's only 42.5 miles, but it is always fast, and it is celebration day for Robert Gesink in yellow. At least it should be in about an hour's time. Here comes his team setting the pace at the front. There are still 7 riders ahead. 30 seconds, the constant gap. 48 kilometers to go to the finish. There is City Hall passing underneath our camera. We're about 30 miles from the end of this extraordinary 7th year of the Amgen Tour of California, and 7 men trying to get onto the circuit first at least.
Well, Nathan Haas is actually participating there. He's obviously decided that it's a good idea to keep the breakaway off the front end of the main field, because what it does is when you've got a breakaway like this, it actually brings a certain amount of calm to the peloton, because you know that one team will continue to chase, makes it a little bit safer. I think what Rabobank will do will ride on the front like this just to peg this gap at 30 seconds until we get a little closer to the finish, and then you will start to see the sprinters teams massing to the front to close it down.
Well, the peloton are waiting for the moment they see that finishing line. Then they'll see it 7 passes before they complete their 6 full circuits. as they go underneath. We're heading now down towards Wilshire Boulevard, and the last time that LA was seen like this was back in 1984 when we had the road races here at Mission Viejo, and Connie Carpenter became the first women's gold medal in the history of the Olympic Games, because women's cycling was introduced in LA.
Well, just looking down there, very often you might hear us use the word peloton. Well, in fact, peloton comes from the French word peloter, which means to bring a group of things together. And that certainly is a group of things together. The leaders here, Nathan Haas is the Australian rider in the blue. Rory Sutherland is up there. Jesper Stuyven and Morgan Schmidt. And they are working exceptionally well together. But I don't think they're going to break the stranglehold of the peloton this afternoon, because their gap has been pegged now at 30 seconds.
It's almost as if they're just not going anywhere now. But they're trying to hold on to the big cheers they'll get as they race down through LA Live and past Staples Center to go out on their first of 6 circuits. And I think you'll see maybe a change of chase pattern developing as we go on. It's rather like seeing the finish of the Tour de France on the Champs-Élysées every July. The riders in the pack are waiting for their moment.
No, they...
So this is the breakaway, still working, all helping each other, all different coloured teams. So they'll only be rivals when it comes down to deciding which one will win. Rory Sutherland setting the pace at the moment. One of the youngsters on the Bontrager Livestrong team, Jesper Stuyven in the black there. Now, this morning before the riders got underway in Beverly Hills, over 10,000 cycling enthusiasts gathered outside of LA Live. This is the actual finishing line the riders are going to at the moment, all in front of the Staples Center for the inaugural 5-mile Nissan ride before the pros. It was great.
Well, it's obviously, if you're a sports fan in LA, it's unbelievable. And today in LA Live, there's going to be, I think, over 100,000 people downtown just to see the bike race. I've been doing the race every year. You know, it's just a lot of fun, and it certainly is it's a great show for the fans to see. But then after the Kings, we're ready for a big game too. We already have fans coming in at 8 a.m. just walking around, so it's great. It's a great event today. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, I'm a Brit, I'm neutral, but I know that the LA Kings, if they win today, they're in the big finals, and that'll be very special for them. That's all, of course, after this race ends, and it's a huge sporting day here in the city. Well, before we take a break, let's have a look at our Monster Cable jersey update here. This is how it all started today. Robert Gessing reclaiming yellow there. Peter Sagan in the Visit California points. Sebastian Salas, he's won the Nissan King of the Mountains jersey. And Wilco Kelderman there is the Rabobank best young rider now after his climb up Mount Baldy. These were voted the most aggressive. First of all, the actually most aggressive was Jon Atapuma yesterday. And the Amgen breakaway from cancer most courageous rider, that was Chris Horner. And I'm not surprised he won that. We'll take a break.
Welcome to the Tour Insider, powered by SRAM. I'm Dave Toll here with Michael Zellman. We had a chance to talk to one of America's greatest cyclists of all time, the Exergy rider who's an Olympic gold medalist, a 2-time world champion, and multi-time national champion. Michael, of course I'm talking about.
You're talking about Kristen Armstrong. Kristen Armstrong is a technically very specific rider. She talked to us about her equipment, her position, as well as her mindset as she heads towards the London Olympic Games looking to defend her time trial gold medal.
Yeah. That's one thing that working with Exergy 2012, we're trying to find the best in the latest and greatest technology, and I think that the setup I have is the best that there is. For to race London tomorrow, I'd go with the 808 front zip wheel with the 900 zip disc in the back, with the VUCA bull base bars and the SRAM shifters in the front. The cockpit is super important for me to feel comfortable in whether I'm road riding or time trialing, and so this is the position that I prefer. My hands fit nicely on the SRAM shifters, as you can see. They're nice and small and they fit right in my hand, and I find that it's really easy to shift up and down with these flat levers. Yeah, making sure that your cockpit, that you're really comfortable in that position. You can see that my hands are extended out onto the bar end shifters here, and the way my elbows are cradle in to the VUCA bull setup is key in any kind of conditions, whether it's windy, but you want to stay as steady as possible when out there time trialing. I mean, the number one piece of advice that I have to give to anyone that wants to be a great time trialist is, number one, you have to learn to focus. Number two, you have to be as steady as possible. And number three, you have to dig deeper than you ever have before.
Thank you for watching the Tour Insider.
Powered by SRAM.
Yes, that's our Tour Insider, powered by SRAM. There is the Staples Center, as that's where the big basketball and hockey games are later today. But right now, come outside, because here is the arrival of the riders as they go through the finishing line and out onto 6 full circuits of just under 8 kilometers a lap, or just under 5 miles.
Well, many of the spectators getting a chance this morning to ride around the circuit, and now they can enjoy and look and imagine and understand the speed that these guys can race around downtown. We will be looking at an average speed, Phil, of about 30 miles an hour when they're racing downtown.
Well, it's taken them exactly half an hour to ride the miles, nearly 15 miles down to the finishing line. So they have kept this pace full on today. Coming down has been created by these 7 leaders. None of these 7 leaders, by the way, are affecting the destiny of that yellow jersey of Robert Hessink. That's why he's not chasing too hard. They've lost too much time over the previous 7 days of racing, but everybody wants to win the last stage of a major international bike race. They're not very far behind. 20 now. They've still got their 30 seconds as they come through, and it's still the team of Hessink. Listen to the crowd looking for the man in yellow.
Wow, that really is a huge crowd. Everybody's enjoying. In fact, the young guy from Von Traeger Livestrong at the bottom trying to rile up the crowd. But I don't think he really needs to do that. They are so excited by having this race in downtown. What an incredible day of sport. They're going to line ourselves up. So there is the yellow jersey there, Phil, though. Robert Hessink sitting on the wheel of his teammate, Luis Leon Sanchez, a brilliant Spanish rider.
Yeah, there's Hessink looking very determined, sitting on the wheel of his teammate from Spain, Luis Leon Sanchez there. Who did all the damage yesterday on the climb and then launched Hessink into the attack. Brilliant teamwork.
No, a very good, well set up. I think really the race was so hard yesterday. It was a question of survival. We've always said that this race was going to be a race for the man who was the fittest and the man who could recover the best, and that certainly was Robert Hessink yesterday.
Well, as we watch the riders underway, these are the 7 leaders. This is Dumousseau in the lead. Let's have a look at our Road ID Challenge fan predictions. Well, you're all very brave today. You're all going for Peter Sagan. 36% of you have voted that Peter Sagan will win his 5th stage of this race. Only 12% for Tom Bonan. Might be wrong, that one. 10.4 for David Zabriskie, and the rest of the field pegged at 41. That's the Road ID fan predictions. One thing's for sure, we're expecting a sprint finish today, but for the moment these 7 riders are causing quite a diversion. The team of Hessink just doing what they have to do. There's a lovely shot in that orange jersey there of Wilco Kelderman, sensational newcomer from on the Rabobank squad as well. He became the best young rider in this race yesterday.
Well, looking at the backdrop now, these guys will start to feel a buzz. It's always an excitement for a professional bike rider to race on the final day, especially if you're in an iconic city. We think about races finishing in Milan, we think about races finishing in Paris on the Champs-Élysées, but to finish in Los Angeles and get a victory here is also a pretty nice thing to put onto your pedigree.
Absolutely. We've got a perfect diamond with a narrow tip on it down there, which means the pressure is on. But the riders in the big swelling of the pack, they're not interested in helping the race leader and his team do the pacemaking. It could stay that way for a couple of circuits here before they start to push their weight around. And this is one of the climbs I was telling you about. You see, it is quite a little climb, especially when you hit it at 28 miles an hour on a bicycle. Most cyclists, when they're pedaling around the streets of LA, will climb that in the region of 8 or 9 miles an hour. Still working well together. The rider coming through is Morgan Schmidt at the moment for the XG team, just doing his little turn at the front. Everybody no passions at all, it seems. They're all helping out with that breakaway, but 30 seconds, you know, is absolutely nothing at this stage of the race. And the main field are feeling that they're just letting them fry in the Los Angeles sun, and then they'll go out and get them. The face of the leader. We'll take a break. Sport for you next Sunday, and don't miss the King of Clay, Rafael Nadal, as he defends his French Open title in Paris on the famous clay courts of Roland Garros. That's the French Open presented by Geico next Sunday, noon Eastern on NBC, part of the NBC Sports Championship season. Let's have a look then at our Cliff Bar Meet the Moment.
My name's Ben Jacques Maines. I race for the Bissell Pro Cycling team. My favorite part of the tour was riding into Santa Cruz County. The Amgen Tour California is the #1 race on my schedule.
The GoPro cameras are a lot of fun. We use them to get inside of the peloton and find out how the guys actually operate. But you can take them home, you can fix it to your own bike, or even fix it onto your helmet and record your ride.
Well, yesterday it certainly got the camera eye view here of all the action, both at the front and the back. That was a very small horse, wasn't it? As the riders here, this is the young Bontrager team who've been real stars. Wheel changes, close-up action with the camera there on the helmets. And that's our Cliff Bar Meet the Moment with the GoPro camera technology. Now we're out on lap number 1 of our circuits of 4.6 miles per lap. Still have those 7 riders away that brought us onto the circuit. Well, it is amazing, Paul. We are locked in at 30 seconds and have been now for something like 5 or 6 miles, 8 or 9 kilometers. As we look here at Nathan Haas here in the breakaway, shot to form last year. He won the Japan Cup. He rode for the Australian Genesis team, and he had so many wins towards the end of the season last year. He was snapped up by the American Garmin Barracuda team, which is a Pro Tour team, and I don't think he'll get the nod for the Tour de France this year, but it's only probably 2 years away for him.
Yeah, just thinking, Phil, you know, professional bike riders can be really awful characters sometimes. They're a little bit at the moment like a cat who's just caught a mouse. They've let that breakaway group of 7 riders just out there. They're waiting for them to suffer, then they'll catch them.
Absolutely. So as the riders continue on their way, if you haven't been with us all week watching the Amgen Tour of California, it's time now to catch up. We'll have a look at the first 4 stages of the race of 8 days. The 7th edition of the Amgen Tour of California began with a circuit race in Sonoma County in Santa Rosa. 116 miles was the riders' first taste of the menu, as they now went out into the wine fields and got wonderful views of the Pacific Ocean as well.
The race was dominated in the early part by a breakaway, but the drama happened at inside of 10 kilometers to go when sprinter Peter Sagan had a flat tyre.
Peter Sagan was held back to the peloton just in time to see a crash like this, which took out some of the sprinters. But Sagan was taking a few deep breaths, and by the time he came into Santa Rosa, he hit the front, and amazingly, on pure adrenaline, won the stage as well to become the first race leader.
Yeah, the 10-second time bonus gave him the overall lead, but on stage 2, the riders moved away from the magnificent backdrop of San Francisco all the way down to Santa Cruz County.
They left from Marina Green for the 117 miles as they could see the Golden Gate Bridge in the background. Turning the backs on the Golden Gate Bridge, though Peter Sagan, now wearing the leader's yellow jersey, was involved in trouble again. This time he was part of a mass pileup as they started to climb.
But this man, who's been a world mountain bike champion, didn't look to panic at all. He got himself back up and onto the bike and took lots of risks to get himself back into the main field.
With a stiff shoulder as a souvenir, he was in trouble again with a flat tyre. This man, though, would fight back, even though his team car almost knocked him off. He then took a drink, rejoined the race rapidly, and moved back towards the front. We were heading now into Santa Cruz, and the crowds were big.
Well, as they charged down into Santa Cruz County, they lined themselves up for what was going to be another bunch sprint. Going round the corner in first place, Peter Sagan got the kick on everybody else. But watch out for the man in the green jersey. Heinrich Hausler was going to be second for a second day in a row.
2 out of 2, and 2 days with trouble as well. He triumphed over adversity and won his second stage. He was consolidating his lead as we went on to the 115 miles, a third stage, heading away from San Jose to Livermore. We were now climbing at Mount Diablo. The crowds were enormous as the riders made their way towards the finish in Livermore.
First time inclusion of Mount Diablo into the race, but when they came down to line once again, Heinrich Hausler in an ideal position right in the middle to take his victory. But on the line, it was Peter Sagan.
Was there any stopping this man? 3 wins out of 3 starts, 3 10-second win bonus. He was building an overall lead in this race. He could not believe what was happening to him. Day 4, we are now in Sonora, and we're heading into mine country as we're bound for the old town of Clovis. This was the longest stage of the race, a massive 130 miles. The towns were ready, the atmosphere was great, and this man was proving to be unbeatable. Peter Sagan was now heading off to Clovis, looking for a 4th victory.
Yes, historic downtown closes awaited the sprinters, and once again we were leading to the line with Team Liquigas. Look at the argy-bargy in the run up to the line, but once the gate opened and the door was clear, there Peter Sagan launched himself again. But look in second place there, because Heinrich Hausler was in the ideal position to get the victory, but he could not challenge again. Peter Sagan getting 4 wins out of 4.
Bustling with confidence now, this man was building his overall lead and preparing for the Tour de France in the finest of styles. But there will be changes, and we'll catch up with that a little later in the program. Now we're back downtown Los Angeles here with stage 8, the final stage of this race. And the riders have just passed through the sprint point, and we can show you that. It wasn't really a sprint because these boys are not interested in a 3-second time bonus. They've lost too much time. So Rory Sutherland is the rider who brings them over, and it looks to me as though Ben-Jacques Maines would be given second, and Morgan Schmidt of Team Exergy there in third. That was the order over the line, but as I say, it wasn't really a sprint in the Visit California sprint competition. The leader of that competition, by the way, is none other than Peter Sagan.
Orica Green Edge.
So there we have a nice little shot again of the yellow jersey. Routine so far for the man that's done his battling out on the mountains. Now he's just got to conserve energy and stay away from any silly falls. That's the only danger now. And on circuits like this, you can have the silly crashes on tight circuits.
And that's the important thing, Phil, to note. That's why he's riding close to the front end of the peloton, surrounded by his teammates, and that's why they're pegging this group back at about 25 seconds. So well, you can see it's a great backdrop for a bike race here, and Phil, the California Highway Patrol have done a phenomenal job all the way from Santa Rosa right the way down here to Los Angeles, keeping the race safe for the riders, which is extremely important.
We're passing the Wells Fargo building there. For us Brits, we were brought up on the television of westerns and the stagecoaches of Wells Fargo, and here we are in the centre of Los Angeles now, bringing home what has been a European sport of cycling, but now very, very much a worldwide sport. Some of the American riders, the very best riders in the world, and some of them in this very event.
Yeah, the amazing thing, Phil, is when I was a professional bike rider many, many moons ago, there was one American, there was one Irishman and one Englishman. Nowadays, we've got 3 American teams on the international circuit at the top end of the board.
Yes. There's the peloton, the diamond, all the riders on the front. The first 7 riders on the front of the race are members of the Team Rabobank. They've lost one rider on the way, sadly. Lawrence Ten Dam abandoned 2 days ago. But the others are coming home, bringing their leader towards the finish. We're out on lap number 2 of 6 at the moment, and there are still 7 riders out front, but the peloton have lost hardly any ground. Now, looking at number 61, take a good look. You won't see him again in a racing strip. This is the irrepressible Robbie McEwen. He's won 209 races in a career which began with the Tour du Pont here in the United States back in 1995.
In fact.
And so, as Robbie McEwen drops to the back of the field there, dreaming of what it's like to be a normal civilian after today, we're looking here at the breakaway. They're still holding a very, very good tempo. The gap is inside 30 seconds at the moment.
Well, Phil, he might well be moving away from the sport of professional cycling, but he will stay involved with the sport of professional cycling, Robbie McEwen, because he'll leave Los Angeles here and very shortly move across to France, and he's going to go and film the finish of all of the most important sprinter stages of the Tour de France, so he can explain to the young guys on his team what they're like, where they need to be, and he's going to become a technical advisor to that Australian squad.
Yeah, so well, you can't let a man spend 17 years winning more than 200 races just disappear from the sport without imparting his knowledge. He's actually looking forward to that too, Robbie McEwen, so we wish him well in his new venture as Team Rabobank from Holland. Rabobank have a very important commercial interest in California, so they are delighted with the way this race is going at the moment. They've got not just the leader of the race, they've got the best young rider as well.
Yeah, one of the PR men on Team Rabobank was actually giving a little bit of needle to Robert Hessing just before the race started. Henny Kuiper, who in 1972, in fact, was the Olympic champion, and he's very happy to see in the yellow jersey this morning Robert Hessing, because Henny Kuiper himself was a well-established cyclist. Not only did he win that Olympic medal, he was the world professional road race champion in 1975.
Yes, he was, and I remember him telling me he was so happy when he won all of those titles at a very young age. He had bad luck in the Tour de France. He was lying second in the Tour de France one year, and the road went through a cutting, which was a rock above his head, and the rock hit his head, and he retired from the Tour with concussion. So we're swinging in to the finishing straight again. This is the approach that the riders will have. That's the final bend. Way in the distance is the sprint. This is a pure sprinter's delight today. Look at the fans cramming the sides here. A double dose of entertainment for them. They'll be leaving those barriers and going inside the Staples Centre at midday, where they'll enjoy the hockey game on ice. They actually made 12,500 car park space available just for the hockey fans to park up as well. Huge logistical problem, but a great atmosphere in the center of Los Angeles.
Well, just to put this into perspective, Phil, here, the group we're looking at here, these guys are riding at an average of just on 30 miles an hour. But once we come to the next few laps, you'll start to see the acceleration coming in the peloton here. The group of riders we're looking at, the gap is down to 19 seconds now. They will start to speed up to 35 miles an hour
as they go out onto lap 3. Well, 17 seconds. I made it officially on that clock as they hit the line. So they've gone out onto lap number 3 now. And we brought you up to date with this first four stages of the race. So we saw Sagan winning all of those. Things were going to change on day 5. After 4 days of domination by Peter Sagan, we moved to Bakersfield for the 18.4 miles individual time trial. We call it the Race of Truth. And Dave Zabriskie, the time trial champion of the USA, was out for yellow.
Well, he was donning his Captain America speed suit, and out on the course he passed no fewer than 3 riders who'd started at least at 1 minute intervals ahead of him. And at half distance he had the fastest time.
He was running clear all the way to the line. He would be the only man to get inside 36 minutes, 35 minutes and 59 seconds. But would it be good enough now to change his blue tunic for a gold-yellow jersey?
The big question on everybody's lips was, could this man, Peter Sagan, who'd be the dominator of the first 4 days of this stage, survive? The answer was no.
No, Sagan lost more than 3 minutes to Dave Zabriskie, and with it any hope of winning this Tour. The new leader now is a man who lives just outside of Los Angeles. He's heading towards his home, Dave Zabriskie. As we move on now to stage 6, we move to Palmdale. This was the first of 2 tough days in the mountains. We were headed for Big Bear Lake, 160 miles, and this stage would find a lone hero.
Yeah, the important thing about the stage, Phil, no massive grades, but almost 17,000 feet of climbing on the day. They circumnavigated Big Bear Lake on the run into the finish, but the lone rider at the front, Sylvain Georges, was asking himself, with 10 kilometers to go, could he survive?
He fought all of the way, and he did survive just, in fact, by 28 seconds. Enough to win the day, but not take over the race lead. This was a great day out for the Frenchman, but the race lead would stay with Dave Zabriskie. 2 days now he had led the race as we moved to yesterday. It was stage 7, the massive climb up to Mount Baldy from Ontario. Only 78 miles, but the hills would be the big talking point.
This is the stage they call l'Etape Arena, the Queen of Stages. The summit finish at Mount Baldy has always had a lot to say in this bike race. Chris Horner knew he had to do something special to get into the breakaway and try and steal the overall lead. Alongside him, his teammate Jens Voigt.
Massive crowds watching the riders go up the Glendora Mountain Road, but the peloton were becoming angry. They were slowly slicing into the big advantage built by Chris Horner. At one stage, he was the leader on the road, but they were closing in. Only one rider left with him in John Atapuma. The peloton were now pouring on the pressure. Dave Zabriskie looks well and ready as we climbed over the top of the Glendora Mountain Road. Then there was an attack. Chris Horner was done, and John Atapuma of Colombia was going for the stage win.
A great climber at 24 years of age, but there were great climbers also in the main field behind. Softened up by the work of all of the teammates, all of a sudden Robert Hessing decided he would go. The first man he caught was Chris Horner.
The tall man from Holland, who come here a week early to train for this race, was in determined mood. He got alongside Atapuma and then tried to drop him, but he hung on the Colombian, and it was all down to a sprint finish. A little bit of risk taken by Guessing on the final corner. He corrected it and survived, as Atapuma had to be content with second place. And Robert Guessing became the new leader of the Amgen Tour of California by winning the stage on top of Mount Baldy. And now it all comes down to the finish outside LA Live. Indeed it does. Now let's have a look at the race route today. The riders midway through now. We started in Beverly Hills just after 10 o'clock this morning. We came down to LA Live, a ride of some 14 miles before they pass through what is the finishing line eventually. They do 6 circuits of 4.6 miles around some of the most famous streets here in the center of Los Angeles, and then they'll finally roll to a halt outside of the Staples Center and LA Live. So as we see there, the Disney Center there, as the riders are swinging down Disney Concert Hall on the left as they swing right below our helicopter. The peloton still closing in quite rapidly now on those leading riders, and it's always the tempo of the teammates of guessing. That's their job as the teammates. The 8-man teams in this race, by the way. There were 16 teams in the race with 8 men at the start. 1 or 2 have lost men along the way. There's the peloton. It won't be long, I feel, before they wrap it up for those 7 leaders. We're on lap number 3 of 6 before the race comes to its close, and they're nearly all together. Change of sports for you next Sunday, and don't miss the King of Clay, Rafael Nadal, as he defends his French Open title in Paris on the famous clay courts of Roland Garros. That's the French Open presented by Geico next Sunday, noon Eastern on NBC, part of the NBC Sports Championship season. Amgen Tour of California, presented by Amgen today, is the last stage of 8 days. These cyclists completing almost 750 miles of racing from Santa Rosa all week. They're now coming down towards the Kendall, 1 kilometer to go to end lap number 3. These are still the same 7 riders, but I think if we could just look behind, the race now is about 12 seconds back of them. We'll get a check on that as they go through. These are the same 7 leaders here as has been all day. There is not much in it now, and it looks as though a determined look now on the face here. I think this is Cameron Meyer who's got himself to the front now for the Orica Green Edge team. They are thinking of either Lee Howard or Robin McEwen to win the stage for Orica Green Edge.
Nice to see just at the back there the polka dot jersey, the jock jersey with the red spots on it. He had a flat tyre in the early part of the course field, but Sebastian Salas managed to drag himself back into the main field, and he will be crowned the King of the Mountains after what I think has been a very great battle of a race within the race.
Well, he's only a second-year pro, Sebastian Salas. He comes from Vancouver in Canada, but he is known for his climbing ability. He's now proved it on the world stage, winning the Nissan King of the Mountains title. There are no counting climbs today. He won it yesterday.
A nice swing around now, and once they line themselves up, they will see the finishing straight just over on the left-hand side, the Staples Stadium. I find it amazing, Phil, to think that they can change the stadium from an ice hockey game to a basketball game in just 40 minutes.
Yes, absolutely amazing. But that's what will happen later this afternoon. Ice hockey will give way to basketball. Right now, we're all giving way to the international cycle race, the Amgen Tour of California, with Meyer on the front, setting the pace. We'll get the clock rolling as they come through and go out onto lap number 4 of 6.
Yep, 3 laps remaining, but look at the length of that main field now. I think, Phil, they're starting to get a little bit excited in the peloton this afternoon. They want to nail it back, and then I would expect to see Team Rabobank handing it over to somebody else. Orica Green Edge, they have decided they will send somebody up to help the Rabobank riders. It's going to be a massive sprint to the finish. I think we will see what we normally would expect on the final day of a great big bike race like this, a sprint royale.
Well, they've gone around at exactly the same speed of each other. The gap was 18 seconds on the line there. If they come back together, we can expect the clash of swords between Peter Sagan, the winner for the first 4 days, and Heinrich Hausler, who was finished second to him over those first 4 days. Hausler may sound German. In fact, he's from German parentage, but he comes from Inverell in just a few hours' drive away from Sydney in Australia.
Yeah, but he's very happy to be racing as an Australian nowadays, and he's had a lot of bad luck in the last couple of seasons, but I think finally he's put all of that bad luck behind him, and all of a sudden, once he found the form that he had a couple of seasons ago, he came up against a guy called Peter Sagan. 4 times that Heinrich Hausler has finished second. I'm sure he'd love to go one better.
Well, he has one thing more than Sagan. He's won a stage of the Tour de France, Hausler, and it was in the pouring rain at Colmar a couple of years ago. But this year, Peter Sagan will make his first Tour de France. And that was why he came here to the Tour of California, because he wanted to get some good form in those legs. He's shocked even himself the way he's been winning these days.
Well, when we roll up now, this is a little bit of a problem at the back here because somebody's got a flat tire, and that is Lee Howard.
Yeah, Lee Howard, and he must have told the team. Now let's see how quickly he gets a wheel change here. He's got his own wheel out. The mechanic is there. The cars are still zooming by. 5, 6, 7. Now that's a great change. Neil Stevens is the man pushing him off. Himself a stage winner in the Tour de France in the years gone by.
You might have noticed, Phil, there was absolutely no panic at all. The best thing to do if you have a flat tyre in a bike race like this is not panic, because if the rider panics, that panic goes through to the mechanic,
panics,
and then you make mistakes.
Yeah, quite right. Anyway, a message obviously got to Cameron Meyer there, because he'd gone back into second place while his teammates got the wheel change at the back, and the pacemaking now again being taken over by the Rabobank boys.
Look at the colours now of the jerseys. All of the teams starting to ride together. They're getting themselves organised as we get into the last 20 kilometres or 12.5 miles of racing. The gap is locked in still at that 20-second mark. It really is. It's almost like a fisherman with a fish on the line. They're just playing with these 7 leaders, just waiting to reel them in.
It's only a matter of time. Well, this is the overall standings of the race as they started this morning. It's still the same. Dave Zabriskie second at 46 seconds. Tom Danielson at 54, and his Boulder, Colorado resident, not teammate, TJ Van Gardner in 4th place. That's the order of the overall, and in cycling, if you finish in the group, you get the same time. At the moment, they're nearly all in a group. Welcome back. We're on lap 4 of the 6th circuit here of downtown Los Angeles, outside LA Live. This is the 8th stage between Beverly Hills and LA Live. It's the last stage of the Amgen Tour of California today. Just 42 miles the total distance, and 7 riders dangling off the front of this big pack of riders.
Optimum.
Some 17.9, 18 kilometers to go, so we're just running into the last 11 miles of the racing now, Paul. I can't see them leaving these 7 riders out there much longer. Next time under that finish banner, they'll be going out with 2 laps to go.
Cameron Meyer just sitting on the back there. I think he will wait a little bit later on, Phil, to try and pace Lee Howard up to the front. Yes, Lee Howard was the rider who had that unlucky timed flat tyre, but the mechanic was very good, changed it very quickly indeed, and he's got himself back into the pack. There are some very fast men in this Amgen Tour of California this year. The fastest so far has proved to be Peter Sagan, but guys like Heinrich Hausler, Tom Bonen, and of course Michael Matthews, I think maybe a guy looking for the victory today.
And what a finish that would be for Team Rabobank, because Michael is the Australian member of the Rabobank squad. If he was to win the stage, they'd also have the winner in the best young rider, and of course the winner of the race in Robert Gessing. Well, we'll see, because a lot of guys want to win this final race. Gessing's only concern is to finish in the group, get the same time, and walk away with the first prize.
And of course to finish upright as well, because I think that now is the only thing that could rob him of an overall victory in the Amgen Tour of California. He's had a lot of dramatic crashes in the past. We know that he broke his leg last year, but 2 years ago he actually broke his forearm in a crash in the Tour de France, and he finished the stage with a broken arm before he was taken off to hospital.
And forced to abandon. Yeah, he's been very unlucky in many ways in his life, which has prevented him revealing his real talent as a cyclist, because the Dutch people really felt this man was their man to win the Tour de France. There's never been a Dutch winner of the Tour de France since Joop Zoetemelk in 1980.
Long time ago, Joop Zoetemelk, one of the eternal seconds. He came up, unfortunately for Joop Zoetemelk, came up against a certain Eddy Merckx, and then after Eddy Merckx retired, he came up against Bernard Hinault.
And then Bernard Hinault pulled out, and he won the Tour in 1980. There you go. Well, we're back here with another tour, which is exactly a mini Tour de France. It's scored exactly the same way. It's a multi-day race. It started 8 days ago in Santa Rosa. They've worked their way through this magnificent state of California. It was made for bike racing, that's for sure. Yesterday we had the battles of the mountains. We've been up around the Pacific Ocean. We've also been through the wineries on the way down here to LA. And right now it's Travis Meyer who's taken up the pacemaking at the front, the brother of Cam.
Yep, well, there you can just see for a moment, just see the blue jerseys of Team Garmin Barracuda. They were starting to mass to the front, not to protect the overall position of their two men in second and third place overall, Dave Zabriskie and Tom Danielson, but to protect the position of their sprinter in the main field, Heinrich Hausler, as we go under the 1 kilometer to go to the finishing line. Next a couple of laps time, there will be a red flag under there indicating 1,000 meters to go to the real finish.
Well, that seemed to be quite a quick lap, that. They're going out onto lap number 5 when they come through the finish this time. The Orica Green Edge all-Australian team, which will ride the Tour de France this year, has got themselves on the front now, and the Rabobank boys in orange will welcome it because they get to ride second wheel. It's a bit easier. These are the riders still clear. Now, last time it was 18 seconds the gap. It'll be interesting because I think when we swing round here, you'll see the finishing straight. It's a long straight down the road. The main field can't be far back now.
Well, that's the finishing line there, the blue banner you can see just over the road as they make their way through these crowds, and everybody's come out with incredible flags and incredible signs to support this final stage, and they will be treated, Phil, I reckon, to a very exciting, probably turbulent sprint to the line.
2 laps to go, 9 miles to the finish. We've been racing for 69 minutes, and that's all, and we're not far short of having done 35 miles in those 69 minutes either. It's been a pretty fast pace today, and a massive crowd there outside the Staples Centre seeing the peloton about to pass under the banner. So as we see the leaders going out on circuit number 5 of 6, the main field coming up the main straight there. And I didn't get the time check this time, unfortunately, underneath the banner there, but we can rest assured they are not very far behind. They're in the same straight. And I think this is the straight for the chase down. This is when the sprinters won't want to go out on the last lap, having to chase down breakaways before they can compose themselves for the race for the line. As we move out then, lap number 5 of 7. The gap is still around 16 seconds, I'm told, at the finishing line. There's Nathan Haas taking the leaders around, the Australian who rides for the American Garmin Barracuda team. He swings off and looks through. It's Ben Jacques Maines who's gone through to take up the pacemaking. These same 7 riders haven't missed a turn there, and they haven't lost hope either. As peloton can misjudge the catch, as we saw the other day with victory in Big Bear Lake. Well, we'll take a break, but when we come back, we'll take the riders right to the finishing line in this year's Amgen Tour of California. See you in a moment.
Fans American Classic is giving you the chance to be part of the American Classic Fan Club this July during the tour on NBC Sports Network. If you are chosen, Bob Roll will tell everyone why you deserve to be featured as the American Classic Fan of the Day. Plus, you'll win great American Classic prizes. Just visit the American Classic on Facebook and enter today.
It is stage 8 presented by Amgen today. 42 miles is the overall distance. Time is running out. We're at 1.5 laps, about 6 miles, 7.3 miles to be exact, from the finish. We are only about 12 to 13 miles away. 12 to 13 minutes of racing now, Paul, as we look at the main field here.
Absolutely, Phil. In new currency, 11 kilometres. A kilometre, the riders will probably cover in about a minute and 10 seconds. But the final kilometre, they will knock off in 1 minute.
1 minute flat. Right, we'll watch out for that. These are the riders here who have been knocking off the kilometres quicker than anybody else. They haven't been caught yet, but they are dangling so close to the peloton at the moment that I thought the peloton would have caught them by now, but they haven't done so.
I don't think they want to, Phil, because it actually keeps the main field calm if you've got a breakaway in front, because most people will not try and ride across a gap like that, and it keeps the control. The control is still on the shoulders of Team Rabobank, who are controlling the pacemaking. The breakaway group is riding at an average speed of about 30 miles an hour, but over the final few kilometres, we will see the main peloton able to push their average speed up to about 35 or 40. Well, Rory Sutherland, again, Phil, keeps putting the hammer down. He's the rider in the pale blue jersey, nipping off the front, but the peloton, as you see, there's a little bit of a bad line taken around that corner.
Well, that was a big move there, and caught off the guard was Thomas Dumasseau at the back there for the Argos team from Holland. Rory Sutherland doesn't want this breakaway to come back. He's a very strong rider when he's let out alone against the watch. He's a time trial expert, He would like to go away alone if he could. He's been joined here on the attack with Scott Wyzanski, the Optum rider, and Rory will welcome the strength of this man. The pace is visibly lifted. Third wheel there now is Ben Jacquemains of the Bissell team, and just tagged onto the back with a few deep breaths is Tom Damuso.
Yep, well, that was a little acceleration going there by Rory Sutherland. And now you can see the disorganization that's happening. Once you start to see these attacks and accelerations, what happens to the breakaway group, Phil, is although they move up to about 35 miles an hour, then they slow down. It actually, in general, slows down the average speed of a breakaway group like this. Oh, there's a problem here.
Yeah, this is unlucky because this has happened at the back of the field. This is Jonathan Clark. He's an Australian rider who can sprint for United Healthcare. Not a good time to get a flat tyre, unfortunately, for John. Look, I can't see. It looks like he's back. Maybe his back wheel there has gone down. That's unlucky. So unlucky, especially on these streets, which have all been cleaned for the day.
Yeah, very unlucky to have. But all it takes is a little flint to get into the tyres, and eventually it cuts its way through the tyre. And then all of a sudden you've got a flat tire. Rory Sutherland is going again.
Second time in a row. Wyzanski's tried twice. Now Wyzanski's gone after him as well. And so they're trying to break up this leading group now. It's much more important to get a couple of rides away. Hope to confuse the bunch if they pick up one or two and forget about the others.
Well, if Rory Sutherland can get away from a couple of these riders, he's an extremely good individual time trialist. That's Sutherland there in the blue and white jersey in second position. He's been joined again by Scott Wyzanski. And the important thing is, you might notice as well, the riders have very deep rims on their bikes. Those are made out of carbon fiber. It makes the wheels a little bit more rigid, but it also helps the aerodynamics.
The hard-driving young team here, led by Jesper Stuyven in the breakaway, the Bontrager Livestrong. They've been a great team. Average age of 20 years of age. These Barbie dolls pop up every year, but then we are in Los Angeles.
Well, there she goes. She's going to get a ringside view there of the race here this afternoon.
And don't forget, today, save 20% on jerseys and merchandise at AmgenTourOfCaliforniaStore.com. Enter the code THANKS at checkout. Thank you for another great Amgen Tour of California. All right, we'll take a break as the race continues now to head into the centre of LA. Soon it'll be the big sprint for the finish. See you in a moment. As they come up towards the line, Peter Sagan is going to get it. Can you believe that? From a puncture to victory on the day. Taylor Phinney predicted in bid 1 and 2. It looks like Taylor Phinney was right.
Peter Sagan, as every bike rider in the peloton says, Phil, this guy is unbelievable. He is incredible.
Is he going to do it again? And he's on the line and he gets it. It's impossible. 4 out of 4. We have seen the national champion of the USA win the day. That now taken the Maillot Jaune in the Amgen Tour of California. He's got 3 days in which to defend it. Sylvain Georges wins the day. The time he had as race leader is well gone by. That doesn't matter. Total hero of the day. Robert Gesing, you pull to the top.
Oh, he's gone wide. Lost it.
He's gone so wide. Has Puma got round on the inside? No. Gesing kicks again. The line is his. What an incredible finish on top of Mount Baldy. It is 1 kilometre to the finishing line, and then it's 1 lap to go.
Well, what happens in a breakaway group like this, Phil, to begin with, you have to form an alliance. So, although these guys are all on separate teams, they have to work together and share the pacemaking. But once you start to get these attacks going, all of a sudden people start to think about, well, I don't like this anymore. I'm not going to cooperate. And all it does is it brings down the average speed. They're going to get caught very, very quickly indeed now, because as you see, there's another attack going over the top. And that, I think, was Nathan Haas.
Yes, it was. Nathan Haas, the Australian, his first year as a top professional with the American Garmin Barracuda team, has gone clear of the field. Now he's again chased by this youngster, Jesper Stuyven, from the Bontrager Livestrong, and they're all trying to get back on terms. But this one was a strong attack by Nathan. He spread eagle this breakaway, and he's caught, in fact, Rory Sutherland off guard in the blue.
Well, what happened there, Phil, you might have noticed, he really took a very good attack, and it probably is the rider who's done the least amount of work in the group this afternoon, because he knows behind he's got Heinrich Hausel, the sprinter on Garmin Barracuda. Now, if anybody can create the surprise here this afternoon, it's this man, because he is a prolific winner on the international circuit.
Huge cheers from a huge crowd here outside LA Live. It's for an Australian Nathan Haas on an American team Garmin Barracuda.
Well, you can see the damage it's done. There's the main field now. The peloton are coming very quickly indeed.
They're right on the wheels. They're picking up the remnants as they go through with a lap to go. The bell is ringing. I hope they can hear it above the noise here. The spread is still 17 seconds, but now that's only to the leader, Nathan Haas.
Well, Nathan Haas now has got to do something extremely special. One thing he does know is Garmin Barracuda will not chase him down. It'll be up to the other teams now. And again, for me, that gives the advantage to Heinrich Hausler. He can sit there and use the other teams to keep the pace nice and high. But at 7 kilometers to go, or 4.5 miles of racing, Phil, this is not going to take them very much more than 9 minutes.
This young man here has a terrific future ahead of him. I wonder if they realise who he is back in the peloton. They won't have seen too much of him yet. He shot to the top, last year towards the end. He won the Japan Cup. He also won a very famous race in Australia, which is the Jayco Sun Tour. And now he's on a big team. He can time trial. He's gone clear. There's still a few remnants chasing, including Scott Zwizinski, also chasing along with Stuyvesant. They're trying to reach him. The peloton may have been outwitted here.
Well, Jesper Stuyven, rider in the black jersey there, he's one of the riders on the Bontrager under-23 development squad, and he is learning a lot about his trade this afternoon. This man has now got the bit between his teeth, as they would say in horse racing. He's got some very aerodynamic wheels on. He's zigzagging around there. That's to miss one or two of the manhole covers. This could create a bit of a surprise, but as you can see, it's Orica Green Edge doing the pacemaking now, but there's still not one team has got themselves organised, and I'm waiting for somebody to take over the control. I would expect Robert Hessing now to be feeling rather confident. He's the man in the yellow jersey, should run out the overall winner. He's ticking over these final few kilometres.
Well, the Optum team are moving to the front here, but they don't want to move too close because they've still got Scott Zwizinski up here trying to reach Nathan Haas at the moment. So they might be forming a false pace behind to try and distract the chase. This is Nathan Haas, the biggest moment he's had at the world of top pro cycling here. He's making his bid for victory on the last day of the Amgen Tour of California. And still the race is under the control of the Rabobank. Now there's only one rider left in front, and that is the Australian Haas.
A little bit of a difficult tactical decision there. You can see on the left-hand side Garmin Barracuda. They're forming a line to try and lead out their sprinter, and that, of course, is Heinrich Hausler, but they can't chase their own man. They're going to leave it all to the other teams. There's Robert Hessink in third position there in the yellow jersey, still riding at the front. He doesn't need to mix it up with these guys, Phil, but he wants to make sure that he keeps out of any chance of danger and an accident at the final few kilometres.
Absolutely, and on this stage today, it's a complicated rule, but if he gets inside 1.8 miles to go at 3 kilometres with this group and falls or crashes, he will get the same time, so therefore he cannot lose the race. And that's what he'll be thinking at the moment. He's got to get inside that last 2 miles of this circuit.
You can see on the left-hand side, two teams of two very fast sprinters have got themselves a good organisation. The lime green jerseys are Liquigas Cannondale. They've got the man just behind in the green jersey, and that, of course, Peter Sagan. He's won 4 stages of this Amgen Tour of California so far, and he's still hungry for one more.
Well, we'll all have to cheer for Heinrich Hausler, who's finished second 4 times to Peter Sagan. Once they wipe out the leader, they're going to come down together. Those two must go head-to-head. It is a pure sprinter's stage.
Well, all of a sudden, Nathan Haas has been caught,
right
and he's right at the back end of the main field.
Swept away. We're all together. 110 survivors on this year's Amgen Tour of California are going to battle out the final stage. They can't win the race overall, but they can win the last stage in front of an enormous crowd here at LA Live. Now watch out for Peter Sagan. We'll pin him for you when we can. He's the dark green in the centre of the light greens in that jersey of points leader. His team have luck for him, and they've brought him to the front.
4.5 kilometres to go. That's inside of 3 miles of racing. Luis Leon Sanchez is the Spanish rider on the Dutch Rabobank team on the front, doing the final few turns to keep this pace nice and high. Motorbike was a little bit close there, but look at Luis Leon Sanchez, looks over his shoulder. He knows that very, very shortly a team of one of the sprinters will take up the responsibility of lifting this pace again to close to 35 miles an hour.
They continue. Now, in 1.3 kilometres, Robert Gessing can be crowned the winner of this race, because a problem after that doesn't help him. It doesn't help anybody else. They're all together as they race to the finish. The field of 110 riders. It's all about who wins the day. And can Peter Sagan, who won the first 4 days of this race, finish off with a win in Los Angeles?
Most important thing now going through the minds of the sprinters, Phil, is the positioning. You've got to be in the right place. If you're 15th or 20th position too far back, you've got to scuttle up the outside to try and keep yourself in the first 5 or 6 places. Garmin Barracuda now have decided those are the riders in the blue jerseys and the blue helmets. They are looking after their sprinter Heinrich Hausler. He's gone back a little bit, but still I have to say Rabobank in the orange jersey here are doing a phenomenal job. They just want to get it over and done with. They just want to grab the yellow jersey Robert Hessing and take him to the finish line and deposit him there right in front of LA Live for a great victory.
But they also might be looking now for Michael Matthews to try and get him to the line, because Matthews is the sprinter. He was knocked around a couple of days in this race, but he seems to be back on form. He's been up in the places on one occasion. He's had a 4th, and Matthews will have the same orange jersey on as the man setting the pace. They're setting the pace for him. They've got a double-pronged attack here right now.
Well, actually, Michael Matthews is in not a very good position there. He slipped back a bit. He's got 2 teammates right on the front, but now there's looks like there's another move trying to come off the front end of the peloton here.
This United Healthcare having a go to try and steal the race away from everybody else.
And what this does, Phil, it creates confusion for the teams of the sprinters when you see these last-minute attacks, but I don't think he's going anywhere at all. He made the initial acceleration, but then when you start to get that wind smacking into your face, it's a wrong decision to make.
Well, it looks as though it might be Brad White here who's made a move to try and draw the attraction, because they have a sprinter in Jeff Lauder back in the main field. But look at the lumbering big gears of the men in orange as they bring up, and on the left, those light blue jerseys are the team of Tom Bonen, the big sprinter from Belgium, who is currently the world's #1 ranked rider this year. He came here to win at least one stage and has won none. He's now moving up to the front. He's going to take Sagan on.
Well, I tell you what, this is the moment when you've got to keep calm if you're a sprinter. You've got to trust your teammates. You've got to expect your teammates to slowly move you to the front end of the peloton. When we go around the corners, you can't touch your brakes if you're a sprinter. You've got to make sure you don't touch them, because if you do, you slip back down that line of riders into 15th or 20th position. Then you've got to use energy to get right back up to the front again. I have to say that Omega Quickstep have got a very good organisation. These are the riders in the pale blue jerseys. At the back of that line will be Tom Bonen.
You bet your life he's right. He's the big man on the left, the last of those boys in the turquoise tops. That is Tom Bonen there. Also behind him, Heinrich Hausler is getting in position, and here comes the rush on the left too of the black-topped riders from Orica Green Edge, bringing forward Lee Howard and Robbie McEwen as they get into the last 1.5 kilometres now. This looks like they've got it well organised. The team from Belgium, Omega Pharma Quickstep, have got Tom Bonen last of their group.
This is called the lead-out train, and what they do, they sacrifice themselves. The man on the front will ride as hard and as long as they can. They're inside the Kenda 1 kilometre to go mark now. They're going to take less than 60 seconds to get to the finishing line. The riders of a team like that, like Tom Bonen, they'll peel off one by one, and in theory, then they let Tom Bonen. But look how he's getting squashed around the corners there by the liquid gas riders in the lime green jerseys. They're trying to set it up for Peter Sagan once again.
Sagan is in there. He is the darker green of the lime green jerseys. There he is, far right now. He's moving himself. That's an XG rider gone onto his shoulder. So there are 2 riders possible. That's Fred Rodriguez who's moved up there. The sprinter on Team Exedy, right on the shoulder of Sagan. They're both waiting. They're going down 600 metres. This is the line-up for the finish now. They will see the finish.
We are now approaching 40 miles an hour. Bonen's up there into second position. They've gone round this corner in perfect line-up. Bonen is in second place. Right behind him there is Peter Sagan. A little bit further back is Heinrich Hausler.
As they go for the line now, Tom Bonen is the second wheel. This is the best chance he's had the whole race. Is he going to... There goes Sagan. Sagan is on the left. Bonen is taking him on. Peter Sagan drives to the line. It is win number 5 for him. Unbelievable. He is just too quick. And this time Tom Bonen got second. Well, in that peloton is the yellow jersey of Robert Gessing, a Dutchman for the first time in this race history, has won the Amgen Tour of California, and he becomes only the second non-American to do so. Peter Sagan, the not yet 23 years of age man from Slovakia, has won stage 5 of a stage, his 5th stage, as he comes down into LA Live.
Well, I have to say Omega Pharma Quick-Step got everything right there, Phil, but you just can't stop this man from Slovakia, Peter Sagan. The team are here. They're giving him all of the congratulations that he needs. 22 years of age. That's his 8th victory of the season. He had 15 wins last year. I wonder how many he's going to get this year, and he's going to be a trouble for the sprinters in the Tour de France in July.
Well, Mark Cavendish, who is the great British sprinter who's won 20 stages of the Tour de France, better watch out in July, because he's going to be taking on this man who's never ridden in the Tour de France yet. He just powered away from Tom Bonen, got him right on the line. Tom Bonen is shaking his head, can't believe it.
Well, he did it right. It was his teammate Gerhard Scholek who was leading him out, himself a very good sprinter. This is the photo finish. He's got that by half a wheel. You can see how Tom Bonen is lunging his bike, but it was too late for Big Tom. And third place, I think, will go to Gerhard Scholek of Germany and the same team as Tom Bonen.
Yes, so second and third for the Omega Quick-Step team there, and a win for Peter Sagan. Let's not forget, though, the man who has won this race is the yellow jersey, Robert Gessing. He stole the jersey with a great show of panache yesterday on the dizzy heights of Mount Baldy. He came down overnight to Los Angeles, moved out to Beverly Hills this morning, and came home today as the winner of the Amgen Tour of California. Let's hope that for Robert Gessing now, all of his sadnesses are behind him. A broken leg, a broken wrist. He's fought his way back with that. He lost his father in a mountain bike accident in the Bart Brenton's Challenge last year as well, with a very unfortunate crash for him there. And now he's had the birth of his baby, Anna, and he's with her here, and his partner, Daisy. And now he's won the biggest race of his career here, which is the Amgen Tour of California. He'll go to the Tour de France this year, and I think after this win we've got to put him into our long list of favourites for that race too. Now I think we might be able to show you the stage result presented by Coca-Cola. There it is. Peter Sagan gets a 5th out of 8 possibles for him. Bonen, Scholek, both teammates. Scholek tried to get Tom over the line. Roger Kluge of the Argus Shimano. First appearance of Roger in the sprint, but he is a very, very good sprinter, Roger Kluge. He's a young man on the way up. There it is, a win on the left to Sagan, a win overall for Gessing. We'll take a break and we'll come back again before we go to the hockey to bring you up to date with all of the action here at the Amgen Tour of California. And the crowd outside here of the Staples Center treated to another big sprint there by a familiar finisher in Peter Sagan. The race, of course, being won overall by Robert Gessing. Let's have a look then, first of all, at our ride of the day, Road ID.
Can go to only one man, Phil, the fastest man in the Amgen Tour of California this year. On the right-hand side in the green there, Peter Sagan makes it win number 5 out of 8. Absolutely unbelievable. But I'll tell you one thing, he took advantage of the lead out from Tom Bonen's team, and he was the fastest man yet again.
He's showing us he can do a little bit of BMX riding there. And Peter Sagan, our Road ID ride of the day. Let's see him on the podium now as he receives another bottle of wine from Sonoma County. And I must say, Paul, he got the better of 2 of the Omega Pharma Quick-Step teammates today.
Very fast riders. On the right-hand side, the former German national champion Gerhard Scholek, and on the left-hand side, Tom Bonen. He wanted to get the victory, but they just could not hold this man down.
No, they could not. Huge rewards for him this year, and we're going to see him in his first Tour de France in July, and he's going to be taking on the likes of Mark Cavendish, and he's looking as fast as Cavendish at the moment with the way he's finishing this race.
No, he certainly is, and it's going to be an exciting Tour de France in the month of July.
All right, let's have a look first of all at the Coca-Cola stage results. Everybody given the same time, all 110 finishers. Peter Sagan, Tom Bonen and teammate Scholek couldn't get the better of him. Roger Kluge coming in the frame, the German sprinter from Argus Shimano. Heinrich Hausler's always finished second to Sagan, but today he finishes 5th. Michael Matthews there in 9th place. Rabobank tried to get him to the line. He didn't quite have it. Let's go and have a look then at the Amgen Tour winner.
Well, this man, Phil, won the race yesterday with incredible panache and incredible style and opened up his lead in the overall standings. He's come back from a dramatic crash in September where he broke his leg. It's been a long, hard ride back to the top for Robert Gessing.
But today, it's his day to smile. His family is with him here in Los Angeles, and he's getting a lot of picture time as well. even though it's been a major sports day here in Los Angeles all day. Well, let's have a look then at the final standings in the Amgen Tour of California, presented by Cliff Bar.
Robert Hessing wins this race by 46 seconds ahead of Dave Zabriskie and Tommy Danielson. TJ Van Garderen, one of the pre-race favourites, Phil, I don't think will be very happy at all with his 4th place. He certainly wanted more than that out of the Amgen Tour of California.
Further down, Levi Leipheimer, he finished strong yesterday on Mount Baldy. Came up to 6th place overall, the 3-time winner, despite his leg broken only 6 weeks ago. Best young rider there, Wilco Kelderman. Let's have a look at the Nissan King of the Mountains winner. He won this 3 days from the end. Sebastian Salas from Canada getting the King of the Mountains jersey here. He rides for the American team Optum.
Well, he's a Canadian, but I tell you what, he knows how to go up hills very fast. He's winning this competition, the race within the race, and that was a great battle throughout the whole week.
But he won it well. He had only one man really to watch, and that was David Boy, as we can see here. The Salas beating Boy by 65, playing 48 points. John Atapuma came good yesterday as he finished 2nd at Mount Baldy, so he moved up to 3rd. Jeremy Fennell 4th, always in the frame. Chris Horner with his rides yesterday, climbing up into 5th in that competition. This is the points competition now. He won it a year ago. He's kept that jersey. At one stage, he wore 3 jerseys, best young, yellow and green. He takes the green home.
I'll tell you one thing that's impressed me over the last week of racing by Peter Sagan, not only his ability to win bike races, Phil, but his improvement in the English language, because he really is enjoying the interviews after the finishes.
Could you imagine us going to Slovakia and speaking his language in a week? Absolutely terrific. Well done. As he waves to the crowd, we can look at the Visit California competition in a little bit more detail now. Peter Sagan was a clear winner of this. He's 87 points, dwarfing the 54 of Heinrich Hauser, who got 4 fourths and a 5th. Tom Bonan 3rd, Lee Howard 4th, the youngster on the Orica Green Edge team from Australia. Sylvain Georges in 5th place after his ride into Big Bear Lake. Let's go to Bob Roll. He's with Peter Sagan.
Peter, 5 stage wins and 4 days in the leader's jersey here at the Amgen Tour of California. Could it have gone any better?
I don't know. Maybe another one victory on the Big Bear, but in life we don't have everything. And no, I'm very glad and happy. Thank you for my team. And I don't know, I like this country.
It looked like the Quick Step team did the big lead out today for Tom Bonan, but you still had the legs to come around. How did the last kilometer of the race go?
Yeah, and Tom Bonan have a good train, and the last kilometers was really fast, and in the last turn, right, is also dangerous, but it's good. We going here 6 times, and this is good. And after the last turn, I go 150 meters behind, and after I go in and finish first, and I'm happy.
Will we see you in the Tour de France this summer?
Yeah, I do it Tour de France, and I do it good. But I hope, for the last I want to win one stage, and we will see.
Well, Peter, congratulations and best of luck.
Thank you.
Well done, Peter. He's going to do it good, Paul, the Tour de France. You think he's as quick as Mark Cavendish?
Well, I think he'll go and take a stage victory out somewhere along the route of the Tour de France this year. Let's not forget, he doesn't yet know his capabilities. He's only 22 years of age, and he will continue to get better. So watch out for him in July.
Back to the podium then. This is Wilco Kelderman. He got the lead on Mount Baldy yesterday off Luke Durbridge. He's only 21. He wins the Rabobank Best Young Rider jersey. Fittingly enough, he also races for the Rabobank team.
Yes, just 21 years of age. This young man won the Tour of Norway last year. He'll make continuous progression over the next couple of years, and I think he's going to be very happy to be a member of the Rabobank squad.
Yes, well, we'll have a look at the overall standings in this. This is for the highest placed rider under 23 in the race, and so Wilco Kelderman right in the top 6 riders. He gets the win. Joe Dombrowski, who had a great ride yesterday on Mount Baldy, 2nd place for him. Luke Durbridge went down to 3rd in the end. These are the names we'll be talking about perhaps in the next 4 or 5 years as winners, maybe, of the big races like the Tour de France. We haven't finished yet. We're going to take another break. Rejoin us and we'll have some interviews for you here in LA. And this is the last day of the Amgen Tour of California. See you back in just a moment. This is the Amgen Tour of California on NBC Sports Network, brought to you by Amgen. Pioneering science delivers vital medicines. Visit us at amgen.com. And by AEG, giving the world reason to cheer. And by Amgen's Breakaway from Cancer. No one should have to face cancer alone. Go to breakawayfromcancer.com. And by Strava. Track your rides and compete against friends, locals and pros. Go to strava.com to get started. Welcome back as we now close the book on the 7th year of the Amgen Tour of California, won for the first time by a Dutch cyclist. We've seen Peter Sagan take out this final stage. Let's have a look then at our Cliff Bar Meet the Moment at the Amgen Tour of California, brought to you by the technology of GoPro cameras inside the peloton. The bird's eye view, Paul.
Well, this is the closest you can get to the main field. We're mounted onto one of the motorbikes following the riders, and that's exactly what it looks like. It's fun to use, and at the end of the day, you can take home a copy of your own ride if you want to.
Indeed, and that is our Cliff Bar Meet the Moment. So going back to stage now, and this is the arrival on stage of the Bristol cycling team's Jeremy Fennell, the New Zealand rider here, awarded the Energy Exergy Most Aggressive Rider of the Day's award.
Well, I think he's been one of the most aggressive riders of the whole week, Phil, because he's been in the breakaway on a number of occasions, and he's a former time trial champion of New Zealand and a very good man to have in a breakaway.
He was in the breakaway, you may recall, on the first day of racing around Santa Rosa, establishing his point in this race. He was in the cameras again yesterday as well. He's had a very, very good Amgen Tour of California. So well done to Jeremy Fennell and the Bristol cycling team. One of America's top domestic teams. And the next jersey to be awarded to, I think this is a nice one because it's his last day of racing today as a pro. Robbie McEwen retires, and his last jersey he wins is the Amgen Breakaway from Cancer Most Courageous Rider, and I think that's a good decision today. He suffered today.
He certainly did suffer today, like a lot of other riders, Phil, but after a long and illustrious career, this is his last day of racing. Yes. 209 victories to his credit as far as we can make. He reckons he's got 1 or 2 more.
Yes, he does, but you know, he's had the green jersey. He was the first Australian to win the green points jersey in the Tour de France. He also wore the yellow jersey. He takes a final bow here, a professional for a massive 17 years. It all started out in the old Tour du Pont days for him, and he finishes in the Amgen Tour of California. So Bob Roll has now discovered the winner of this tour. Here he is now talking with Robert Hessing.
Robert, you've overcome in the last few months bad luck, injury, and tragedy. What's kept you going?
I think especially the fun in the sport. I mean, I really love cycling. I love to be on the bike and ride out there and enjoy nature and enjoy just hurting myself and getting better. And of course also moments like this when you do have your good times and win. That's what we do it for.
You did one of the best time trials in your career, and then your teammates did a great turn of work before the stage on Mount Baldy. Can you speak a little bit about the teamwork being done by the Rabobank squad?
Yeah, we have an amazing team out here. I'm really happy with those guys. I mean, those guys support me all the way through. They always believed in me, and also the sponsor was always there. I mean, I had like 7-8 really tough months after breaking a leg and all that happened before. And they were always there for me and supported me, and I'm really happy with those guys. And as you saw again today, only 2 guys of us have been working, and they kept the whole bunch together, and they were riding so strong. I can't believe it, but I'm really happy with them.
Does this victory help the morale for the upcoming Tour de France?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a victory we were desperately waiting for. And we worked hard to this race. It's a really important race for my sponsor, Rabobank, who wants to be, of course, a big bank also in America, and especially in California. And it's a really important race for us. And this is the 4th time I'm here, and every time I was here, I've gone home with some victory, either a stage or the Young Riders jersey, and this time the overall. So California is kind of becoming my place, and I'm really looking forward to getting back here the next time.
Well, congratulations, Robert, and best of luck later on in the Tour de France this summer.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I guess we can expect Robert back to try and defend that title next year, Paul. It's also going to be his 4th Tour de France this year, and I think he might be a favourite now.
I think he will be, Phil. He's always been regarded as a man who can finish in the top 10. His best place in the Tour de France was 6th overall a couple of years ago. And I think with the form that he's displayed here, he can go better.
Let's hope so. And the winning team, and they only took the lead on Mount Brawley yesterday, is the American team at Radio Shack Nissan Trek. Coming on board, and it was all started yesterday by that incredible bike rider, the defending champion, Chris Horner. He's not on stage yet. He's coming up. Chris making that attack yesterday. There he is. He's brought his champagne with him.
It made for a dramatic stage. It was all set up when 4 riders from the Radio Shack Nissan got into that early breakaway, but the pressure that it put on the field and the other favourites was unbelievable.
We're not going to be too pleased with the news today coming from Italy, where the star man for the Tour de France, Frank Schleck, is abandoned in the Giro d'Italia today. But here it's all happiness in Los Angeles because they've won the team award. 3 different teams led it at one stage. Well, 2 led it, 1 won it. The other 2 are Garmin Barracuda and BMC Racing. But the final victors, here they are. Team Radio Shack Nissan Trek.
Well, they really did animate the race yesterday, and I tell you what, I think we're looking at Chris Horner going forward now to ride a good Tour de France as well.
Well, I'm hearing now that Bob Roll is behind stage. He's found Tom Danielson, who finishes 3rd for a 2nd year in succession.
Tommy D, 3rd again. You follow that up with a great performance in the Tour de France. What are your feelings from the Amgen Tour of California this year?
Yeah, I mean, this year's Amgen Tour California was much different than last year's. My 3rd, I was very distant from the best guys in the race, and this year the 3rd, definitely one of the best guys in the race. I think one of the best climbers. Had a little bit of problem yesterday with a cramp, and not taking anything away from Robert, but I think I was definitely on par with that, and was hoping to try to win the stage and do something overall. But with the way things worked out, I'll take it. I'm happy, and with Dave also on the podium, it's pretty nice.
And the Tour de France upcoming for you on your schedule later on this summer. What are your feelings about that?
Yeah, my feelings are very good. I took the last month and a half off from racing. Haven't raced since really the first week of April. So just been working hard in Boulder, Colorado at altitude, training hard, and came here using this to tune up. Right, last year I was here trying to make the team. This year I'm very fortunate that my sponsor, Garmin Barracuda, has enabled me to really focus on the Tour de France and build gradually for it. So was really happy with my test here. I think that I did a pretty decent time trial and a good performance on the hill. So with a month and a half to go, I think I'll be ready for July.
Top 10 in last year's tour. What are your aspirations for this year?
You gotta dream big and you gotta go for it. And I'd like to get on the box there for sure. But there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of different factors that go into it. But I'd be lying if I said that wasn't my goal.
Well, congratulations here at the Amgen Tour of California, and good luck in the Tour de France.
Thanks a lot, Bob.
Clearly believes in himself, Paul. 8th in the Tour de France last year. I think he's a top 6 rider if he goes well this year.
The thing about Tom Danielson, Phil, is we've always talked about him as being a contender in the big stage races. He's done well in the Vuelta a España, and I think last year, after such a long wait to get into the Tour de France, now he wants to go better.
Absolutely. Well, let's wish him well back on stage here now. And this is a gift here from the city of Los Angeles and AEG to Robbie McEwen, who retires from the sport today at almost 40 years of age. He will be this time next month. And I think on there, some of his biggest victory salutes. They couldn't fit on all 209 victory salutes on there, but a proud moment for Robbie McEwen. We'll miss him because he won 12 stages of the Tour de France, 12 stages of the Tour of Italy, and 12 stages of his home tour, the Santos Tour Down Under in Australia. He has been a great personality for 17 massive seasons.
He's a real good bike rider, and I'll tell you one thing, the riders on Orica Green Edge are going to be very happy to have him alongside them to talk them through the sprints.
Absolutely. So let's see what else we've got for you now, as we're seeing all of the winners today in the Amgen Tour of California back on stage. We're bringing on all of the winners now. Starting with McEwen on the right there with his breakaway from cancer courageous rider jersey and the XG most aggressive rider black jersey on Jeremy Fennell. Peter Sagan Robert Gessing in yellow. Sebastian Salas, the winner of the King of the Mountains, and Wilco Kelderman, the best young rider, on the far left, and our Michelob Ultra ambassadors on either end. Well, it's a very, very colourful line of racing jerseys, all hard won and hard fought, and finished off in front of a huge crowd of fans here in the city of Los Angeles. Coming on stage now is Christian Bachochin, who is the executive director of AEG. I tell you, she's done a great job here, because the organisation has had nothing but praise wherever this race has been.
The only thing you have to do, Phil, is just ask the bike riders. They're the most concerned about how this race is, and all of them have great things to say about the Amgen Tour of California, whether it's from the hotels to the safety or to everything else, and including the fans.
The final smile, Robbie McCune won't be standing on a podium anymore in his life. It's a great shame, we'll miss him. Peter Sagan will, though. At 22 years of age, he can dream of at least 10, well, if he goes as long as Robbie's gone, he's got another 15 years on top for him. And just to remind you, before we say goodbye, the final top three here today. Tom Danielson, who finished third last year, gets the same position again for his team Garmin Barracuda. He's seen his teammate about to come on stage. That will be Dave Zabriskie, who has also finished second, Paul, for a
fourth time. Will be his finished second. I thought this year he might just have had the makings, but the race around Mount Baldy was so hard, it put pressure on everybody, including Dave Zabriskie, who's not one of the greatest climbers in the world. But this year I thought maybe he might just have gone one better, but he came up against a stronger, faster man.
Time progresses for the two boys as they start off as young cyclists. Now they're all bringing their families on board here. We haven't got Anna, though, the newborn for Robert Gessing. He's left her down behind the podium with his wife, but Robert Gessing is now the winner of this race. There's the Big Bear of California, and that's the one they all wanted, and for the first time it's a Dutchman who gets it. So well done to Robert Gessing today. He's had a marvellous ride here. He prophesied, he came a week early before the team so he could go training, and he trained around the roads of California, dreaming that this might be the outcome, and as it turns out, it was. So that is the end of this year's Tour of California for us. Remember, the next big race here on NBC will be the Tour de France. That comes up from June onwards and throughout the month of July, and the race itself is going to be fantastic this year. We're going to see a lot more of our rider here, Robert Gessing, as he will go head-to-head with some of these riders in the Tour de France next, and some sprinters like Peter Sagan again. That's something to look forward to on NBC. Enjoy that. Remember, for all of the updates and full schedules, log on to NBCSports.com. We've had a wonderful week in California, sunshine all the way. We found a happy, smiling winner. Until the next time, for Bob Roll, Paul Sherrin, I'm Phil Liggett saying goodbye.